Now it's been over 2 weeks that the joint forces of the United States and Israel bombed Iran, and we can see what has happened since then with Iran having their own way of retaliating to the conflict, and they have gone for a different strategy from the one that the United States and Israel have gone for. And I'll try and explain in this video what I'm trying to talk about. You see, when the United States and Israel went into Iran, they had a strategy to do three things. Number one, regime change. Number two, to take control of the Middle East. And by taking control of the Middle East, effectively taking control of the global trade in the world, because everything all runs on oil and gas. Because whatever you do, your energy bills at home, your cars, yes, you can argue that you're using electricity, but the electricity that you're using in the house is also still powered by oil and gas. So oil and gas is the de facto way we power our tools, we power our goods, we power our services, especially large, plants and large, manufacturing units, etc., etc., etc. And they wanted to target that because although the Saudi Arabia has a large saying or a large share in the global oil and gas trade, other countries like Nigeria, Venezuela also are there. Saudi Arabia tends to control a lot. Saudi Arabia is in the Middle East. You have Kuwait, you have Bahrain, Oman, and other countries. Dubai, less so because they have tourism and trade and banking. So they can survive on those other things apart from oil and gas. So to control the global oil and gas industry or trade, regime change, and to install Israel as the de facto and only leader in the Middle East. Now, I'm not going to go into the culture and I'm not going to go into the history of what has happened over 50, 100 years. So many things have happened, and Iran has been that country. So it's Syria to a large, a smaller extent, but Syria doesn't have the weapons that Iran has. Syria doesn't have the strategic importance that Iran has, and Iran has some advantages that is making this war very, very difficult to win. Now, in the strategy of the United States and Israel, it has been the things I talked about for military bases first. Go in there aerially, kill whoever you want to kill, the Ayatollah, the president, the military generals, and have a regime change from the air. What about the ground? How do you have a regime change without ground forces going there? How do you have a regime change without the people in the country asking for a regime change? So these are the questions I have when I look at this, the strategy that they are putting out. You have to get the people on your side. So all wars have the narrative, the political, the military, and the economical. The narrative is usually through the media. Whether social media or traditional media, you use the media, you control the narrative, you control who is winning, you control how many people have died, you control, you control, you control. Even the reasons behind the war is controlled by the narrative. Political. International geopolitics, there's always a political reason to do a regime change or to go in because you have interest, you have political interest. Now, if you are a ruling party and somebody is your opponent that wants you out, it's going to be in their interest for any regime change to occur because now you have a shot at the table. So there could be political reasons. There could also be non-governmental organizations and people who are actually against the current regime or administration because of bad governance. So they can be used as well as tools to take away a government in power and then put somebody else there. That's the political part. Then you have the economic part, meaning resources, especially a lot of these countries that they go into tend to have resources. So you're going there because not for altruistic reasons or because you really love them, but you're going in there because you want to have access to their resources. Once you have access to their resources, you become richer. So having access to their resources is controlling the actual oil pipelines, the oil rigs, being the de facto leader, having a stronger say in the global supply chain, having access to the Strait of Hormuz, which I'll come to in a minute, and just being richer. And even the construction contracts that are going to go on in that area as a result of the bombing and all the things that are happening there. It's your companies, the American companies, the Israeli companies, or companies that align with them that are going to get those contracts. So it's a win-win. So that was the strategy from the United States and Israel. Now, if we're going to do a like-for-like comparison, we're going to be here all day. Israel and Iran is not even a fair fight. Israel cannot lose to Iran in a military conflict. Remember, I said you can't just go in aerially and think you can force regime change. And you need the people on the ground to actually go out and protest, which you've not been seeing. So they made a big, I won't call it a mistake. I'll just say it's an error of big proportions. And that mistake, in my opinion, that mistake was the unaliving of the Ayatollah Khamenei, the 86-year-old Ayatollah Khamenei, who they were negotiating with alongside some other military leaders to give the assurance that Iran was not going to build nuclear weapons. That negotiation was still taking place. The media reports that came out suggest that the Ayatollah was firmly against any kind of nuclear weapons being built. And that if you're a student of history, you probably go back to weapons of mass destruction with Iraq and the whole stuff, and we found out it was a lie. And I think that's the same playbook here. So the Ayatollah was against this, and they just went and they just bombed Iran. So what's Iran's strategy? Iran cannot fight Israel one-on-one. Iran can also not fight the USA one-on-one. So the Iran now went for military assets in the GCC countries, the Gulf countries, the rich Gulf countries. So we're looking at Bahrain, we're looking at Saudi Arabia, looking at Kuwait, you're looking at the UAE, which comprises of 7 Emirates, including Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the two that most people know, but there's Sharjah and there are other ones. But these are the ones that have, that's where you have the majority of banks, majority of hotels, majority of the things that many people like when they go on holiday, that is in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which are beautiful places, by the way. So they went and they bombed back the US bases, but then they've gone for some hotels. It appears that some hotels were attacked. Some people said it's because some of the CIA operatives moved to those hotels when the bases were bombed. They needed a place to stay, so that's why they bombed specific hotels, and they left other hotels. That hasn't been confirmed or denied yet, but that's what some reports were saying. And that bombing is going on till today, and there's been casualties on both sides, on the US side, on the Israeli side, and also on the Iran side. And Tel Aviv is burning, Tehran is burning, Abu Dhabi is burning, Dubai is burning. I'm not talking about the whole country. I'm saying in pockets of violence through these drone missiles. So the Iran strategy is not to win a war in the classic sense of the war of military combat. their own way of fighting is to kick America out of the Middle East. And the only way they can kick America out of the Middle East is to do what they are doing, to push them away. Because if you cannot do trade, if your banks can't work, if your data centers in some certain companies are not working, and your military bases are destroyed, then you will retreat. Because what's your reason for being there? The reason for being there is because you had a military base. Now, this is going to also be a long war. People are saying people thought it was going to be short. I think this is day 15 or day 16, but this is looking like it's going to be a long war, at least more than 30 days. Now, you may argue that that's a short war, but if your initial target was to finish this in 5 days, then 30 days is times 6 of what you initially proposed. And Iran is showing that they are not pushovers. They have their own way to fight back. Now, people are saying what they did is not fair. They shouldn't have dragged the UAE. So why was the UAE dragged in? The UAE was dragged in because the UAE had allowed the USA to have military bases in their country. So Iran is seeing those military bases as an extension of the United States. We cannot bomb Washington. We don't have long-range supersonic missiles to bomb Washington. So the closest we can get is the military bases that you have here, and that's what we're going to do. You can't teach us how to respond. It doesn't help anybody. Fuel prices where I live have gone up. Fuel prices in other parts of the world are going to go up. We have also seen that things like this will have an impact. Excuse me, we've already seen the impact on the oil prices. They're rising, they will continue to rise until some peace and order is maintained. So I think the people involved that can speak and have the negotiations and diplomatic relations that need to be done to bring this back on track, that needs to happen so that the world can go back to being peaceful. But when has there ever been peace in the Middle East? That's my question. When? It's been calamity after calamity, chaos after chaos. This constant interference in other people's countries and other people's cultures, it needs to stop. It has been going on forever, and it doesn't seem to be abating. Everyone has rights to their sovereignty. Everyone has a right to how they want to govern themselves. Everyone has a right in terms of how they want to manage their resources. When you continue to impose on people, you can get this as a result. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Are you pro-Iran? Are you pro-Israel? Are you pro-Saudi Arabia? Are you pro-peace? What's your take? Leave your comments down below. If you're new to my channel for the first time, please give me a subscribe and like this video. If it touched you in a great space and you want to share this with somebody else, please share my content. I'll see you in the next one.